So I had a friend on Facebook tell me last night after the primary in Indiana and the news that Ted Cruz was pulling out of the race and Donald Trump, that words, presumptive nominee now being heard across the land for the Republican Party. And he is on his way to the nomination and will likely pick up more than he needs for the first ballot win at the convention, Republican convention. We need to make that clear, in Cleveland coming up in a couple of months. And my friend wrote me, he's manager of a Lowe's store in Millsboro, Delaware. I used to live right around the corner. He wrote me, he said, Bill, get with the program. Now, I realize there are a lot of people out there who support Donald Trump for, I think, good reasons. Their reasons are that they feel the country has seriously gone off the rails. As a woman told me, and she's been active in Idaho party politics for a long, long time, but she told me over the weekend, she said, how can it get any worse? The public is looking, and this is really an outgrowth of the Tea Party movement. Way back in 2010, we had a number of upsets around the country, and old-time Republicans were pushed out of the way, and new blood came in, or the Tea Party Republicans didn't win in general elections. And the trouble is government really didn't change a whole heck of a lot. Things haven't gotten any better. National debt has doubled in a space of just under 10 years. So we're dealing with all of these tremendous issues, and the future of the country, well, it looks perilous. And so Donald Trump comes along, and if nothing else, he's the type of guy people want to go to Washington and put a fist in the face of the same old, same old. So I understand that. But when I do hear from people, oh, you got to get with the program, sometimes I grow a little concerned because if you ever saw the movie The Producers, the original, I think, is by far and away far better than the remake. There's a line in the play that is being produced, and it says, "Don't be a smarty, come on and join the Nazi Party." There's a lot of pressure that people are being put under now to support Donald Trump. And I'm not inferring Donald Trump is a Nazi or a fascist. I think that the lefties who bring that up obviously have been smoking far too much dope. And I really do believe that if he goes to Washington, and I do think he's going to win the general election, I'll tell you that right now. I hope it's him instead of Hillary Clinton. I'll put it that way. But I don't think Donald Trump is going to be any great threat to the republic in the sense he will seize power and rule as an emperor. Simply not going to happen. My warning only has been this. When he gets to Washington, he's going to find that swamp is more difficult to drain than he ever imagined, just as everyone else who goes there realizes it is difficult to drain. And so putting all of your hopes into this basket means you're likely going to be disappointed somewhere down the line. Also what bothers me about this with Ted Cruz now withdrawn, they call it suspending a campaign. That's for certain reasons when it comes to raising money and paying bills and the like. But Ted Cruz walked off the stage last night and said, oh, it's done. It's over with. Somebody today I saw on Facebook immediately had to go back and say Ted Cruz is a liar because, well, Trump called him Lying Ted, so therefore he's Lying Ted. You know, repeating other things that people say all the time. Because even Trump last night said, hey, guy's a pretty good guy, and he did really well, and he's a heck of a competitor. So why are we still saying, oh, Lying Ted, Lying Ted? It's like people who call my show and repeat things Rush Limbaugh has been saying for 10 or 20 years. Oh, well, Bill, the drive-bys. Thank you for your original thoughts on my show. 10 minutes after 8 o'clock. So there are a lot of numbskulls out there who are backing Donald Trump, but hey, there are numbskulls who back every candidate. 10 minutes after 8 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. Trump has brought what you'd call the marketing skills of professional wrestling into politics. And your traditional political people have no skill whatsoever there and don't even understand it. One thing Trump did do, though, while speaking to Fox News yesterday morning, folks, there are times when it's just a little bit below the belt. And he was speaking to Fox News about the Kennedy assassination and a story in the National Enquirer, which is like reading Mad Magazine and thinking that somehow is the Bible. Trump went off on this story. This is Jake Tapper at CNN. Now, I don't like CNN, but on the other hand, that doesn't mean CNN is 100% wrong 100% of the time, and some of the people who work there actually are right once in a while. This is Jake Tapper reacting to Donald Trump's comments.
His father was with Lee Harvey Oswald prior to Oswald's being shot. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. What is this right prior to his being shot? and nobody even brings it up. I mean, they don't even talk about that. That was reported, and nobody talks about it. What was he doing with Lee Harvey Oswald shortly before the death, before the shooting?
I cannot believe I need to say the following, but here goes. There is no corroborated evidence that Ted Cruz's father ever met Lee Harvey Oswald, or for that matter, any other presidential assassin. We in the media don't talk about it because there's no evidence of it. In fact, there is contrary evidence. Well before the picture was taken, Rafael Cruz's sister was brutally beaten by Castro forces, and Rafael Cruz had denounced the regime. So any suggestion that Cruz's father played a role in the Kennedy assassination is ridiculous and, frankly, shameful. Now, that's not an anti-Trump position or a pro-Cruz position. It's a pro-truth position.
And you wonder, did the folks at Fox and Friends call him out on that? I doubt it. They just moved on to some other topic. And the ignoramuses who are still out there who believe this stuff, and some people probably believe it when he says it, or, they just suspend belief because Donald said it. And he's a celebrity. He fires people on TV. The morons out there who would buy into that, even Trump knows. Come on. He knows that he's pulling the wool over some people's eyes. Not all of you, but some people's eyes when he does those things. The problem is, I can't really criticize him a whole lot on the matter when you consider what I do for a living, which also is a lot like pro wrestling, just more of a verbal version of it than anything you would see on your television set. However, if we're talking about people who've had their pictures taken with nefarious characters, Donald Trump has several photographs floating around the internet of himself with the Clintons. Now, I will point this out. For all of the talk this morning and all the media about Trump and what this means, and, oh, good golly, it's the end of the republic and the like, Hillary Clinton lost last night in Indiana, and polls showed her leading this fellow Bernie Sanders.
The American people are tired of working longer hours for low wages and seeing almost all new income and wealth going to the top 1%.
In primary after primary, caucus after caucus, we end up winning the vote of people 45 years of age or younger.
Nobody, I think, would have dreamed that here at this particular point in May of 2016, not only would we be here, but we would be winning elections, but we are.
And he didn't dream about it either. Otherwise, he would have been better prepared, and he might have been more of a difference maker if he'd gotten an earlier start on this and actually called her out. Because, in the early days, he didn't want to criticize her. 8:14, Bill Colley with you this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com. And when you hear all of these people who say lying Ted, or some people say lying Trump, Hillary Clinton went down to, hold on just a moment here, Hillary Clinton, my voice is still cracking, puberty at the age of 54, it's amazing. Well, it could be a reversal into something else. It could be Bruce Lynn Jenner. I don't know. No, not in my case. Hillary Clinton went down to coal country the other day, and ABC News managed to capture this. She's talking with a coal miner. And the coal miner was not pleased with the fact that just 2 months ago she said she was going to put the coal industry out of business. Watch her fumble and fib after she's approached by this fellow.
You have to plan around your certain shifts or your certain times of day that your best producer has to be worked on. So you don't want to do it in the middle of a prime shift. So those were the kind of duties that I had. You have to plan a time when that machine's not running at its normal peak operating time to repair it. I just want to know how you can say you're going to put a lot of coal miners out of jobs and then come in here and tell us how you're going to be our friend, because those people out there don't see you as a friend.
I know that, Bo. And, I don't know how to explain it other than what I said was totally out of context from what I meant, because I have been talking about helping coal country for a very long time. And I did put out a plan last summer. And it was a misstatement, because what I was saying is that the way things are going now, we will continue to lose jobs.
I think of three words when I hear that. No good, which. And I cleaned that up a little bit. The rhyme scheme there might offend a few people this morning. 8:16, Bill Colley with you on Top Story. On our way into the low 80s today, 51 right now. Wall Street Journal has this today. In a perfect Clintonian non-apology, she added that, quote, I do feel a little bit sad and sorry that I gave folks the reason and the excuse to be so upset with me because this is not what I intended at all, unquote. Mrs. Clinton, the writer says, claimed those remarks were, quote, totally taken out of context, unquote. So the writer says, here's the full context. Quote, I'm the only candidate which has a policy about how to bring economic opportunity using clean renewable energy as the key into coal country because we're going to put a lot of coal miners and coal companies out of business, unquote. Well, misstatement taken out of context. No, we know exactly what you meant. And now you're being confronted about it, and now you're willing to say, well, tell you what, I'm going to lie to you. You're going to believe me, right? Wink, wink, wink. You'll believe me, and then what we'll do is we'll go turn around once I leave town and go back to putting you out of business. Thank you for your vote. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.
Good morning, Bill. Sad day. I guess it's inevitable now that Trump's probably going to be our nominee and most likely our president. Guess I'll have to choke it down and deal with it. We still got to deal with the ABC. And how now do we hold his feet to the ground? Because he's proven that he is a politician at heart because he lied his way right into his position by bashing everybody else. Like I said at the beginning of this, he used every trick in the liberal playbook.
Yeah.
And it worked.
John Huntsman, who's the founder of this No Labels group and was a liberal in Utah when he was serving in public office, endorsed Trump yesterday. And it's appropriate because No Labels, Trump doesn't stand really for anything either, at least that we know of.
Well, yeah. Anytime he's been asked deep questions, he stumbled. And I blame, my personal blame, Sean Hannity. I mean, if he said he was neutral, I stopped listening to him because I got tired of him telling me that he's a conservative, meanwhile backing somebody that's a total liberal.
I would only say this about the folks, Hannity and all of the rest of the folks, not just in talk radio business who are easygoing on Trump. Thank you for the call too. But Fox News, which denies that it has been in the corner after those comments yesterday about Lee Harvey Oswald, come on, give me a break. If you don't call him out on these things and you let it go, then, it's the old line from the 1960s. We'll borrow it from the old hippies. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. Dr. Jonathan Tripp will join us in about 15 minutes from Tripp Family Medicine. We also have a candidate. She is challenging a sitting state legislator up in the Mountain Home area on the way. Now, let's just say that Trump gets to Washington and does a lot of the things that he says he's going to do and would like to do. Then God bless him. But again, I don't see how you get by Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and all of the other dead weight that will just simply, it's like any bureaucracy, they'll just simply find ways to slow it down and impede the progress. And so he'll be dealing with same old, same old. Jimmy Carter came to Washington as a man who said, I'm not going to deal with these people. I'm going to go over the tops of their heads. And they taught him a lesson about how intransigence, I guess that's the word, how that works. It's 8:24. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And I do want to share with you, of course, this morning that we have a couple of guests on the way. We have a guest. She is running for a state legislative seat. Actually, she's challenging a sitting incumbent, Pete Nilsson, who's been in Boise serving a long, long time. She'll be joining us just after 9 o'clock news this morning. I also want to let you know that if you're having difficulty hearing our program, you need to give a telephone call to Dr. Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology in Rupert. Did you know that your hearing health and your brain health are connected? At Mount Harrison Audiology, we have been studying the research on cognitive health and hearing The most recent findings prove that when hearing loss is addressed with hearing aids, the effects of cognitive decline are greatly diminished. Hearing is critical for communication, for connection to others, and for overall well-being. Now is the time to improve your hearing. Call MountHarrisonAudiology.com, or rather, Mount Harrison Audiology. I guess you wouldn't call the website. Well, there's probably some way to do that. You can call for an appointment today, 208-312-0957. We have a caller with us. You're up next on KLIX at 826.
Yes, Bill, a couple quick points. McConnell has, I don't exactly know the whole details of this, but he's somehow going to allow the EPA to slide on some of the waters of the U.S., and then it also has to, is going to affect these people down in the, Colorado and New Mexico where that mine, the dam broke and all the toxic waste went down the river, and in some cases fouled some of these farmers' farms. And this is Mr. McConnell, the establishment pig, who is allowing the EPA off the hook. And one more point. Yesterday I brought up about the recycling center that sells steel and iron. It's called Pacific, and they're closing the Burley store for sure. And this is an example of what the EPA has done to Pacific Iron and Steel and Recycling. They will have paperwork on their desk identifying every recycled refrigerator. But if it's sitting up on the pile and they don't have it tagged, if they don't have it tagged, whether or not they have the paper on their desk and they have the number there, if they don't have it tagged, they are fined $27,000 to $38,000 for that alone.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of horse you-know-what that these people are getting away with. And then again, there's this center is being closed in Burley, and these people are out of a job, some of them, and
right.
They're going to have to relocate, and it's a hell of a mess. And I'll hang up. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaking of the EPA, story out today says the EPA is looking to shut down the coal plant on the Navajo Reservation. Now, the Navajo Reservation has already been poisoned because of this Gold King mine spill, and the EPA will do nothing to clean it up. So the Navajo, of course, who've been treated quite poorly throughout their history, despite putting on the uniform of the United States military and fighting in wars and doing all sorts of heroic things, they have a coal plant, which is apparently the biggest employer on the reservation, and it pays well to work there. They have a lease, though, and the lease expires in 2019, and the EPA is saying, nope, not going to be renewed. So at this point, you've got to look at some of these tribes and say what they need to do is really assert the meaning of sovereignty and say, sorry, the EPA does not have any jurisdiction on the reservation. Number one, do that. They will not, they don't, especially among liberals, they don't want to stand off with indigenous peoples. It doesn't look good on televisions. And they will fold like a deck of cards, they'll just, or a box somebody's sitting atop that's empty. Number two, you've got to continue to remind people that you are sovereign. I mentioned that already, but I think number two, the bigger point here is they just simply have to demand these changes be made, and just simply say they're not going to play along anymore with government trying to bully them or tell them how they're going to live. But reiterate, too, what they have done for this country as people who've been treated very much as outsiders. Coming up on a break in just a moment, Dr. Jonathan Tripp will be joining us in just a few seconds, talking a little bit about pain that people may have in their jaws. Now, some of us who talk for a living, obviously, we're worried about that constantly. I met a CNN reporter years ago when I was in college, 30-some years ago, and she came and spoke at our class, and she was having some issues with that. She had to have some surgery done in order to continue on the air because opening and closing her mouth had become very difficult. More details on all of that on the way in just a few minutes on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com.